How much money do you need to retire at 40? In today's video, I'm going to tell you the secrets of how you can retire at 40 or frankly at any age using a special model that I developed called the hybrid model. Far beyond what the financial planners will tell you. What financial planners tell you is just the math. They're going to tell you, oh, you can spend 4% of your retirement savings per year. So just figure out how much money you need to live on, and then you can spend 4%. And so for example, if you needed $80,000 a year to pay your bills, then you need $2 million in savings because 4% of $2 million is $80,000. For most people, that's impossible, especially if you're talking about retiring at 40. Unless you've done really well and got lucky, congratulations, that's great. But what I'm going to tell you about in this video is a hybrid method that you can use to retire whenever you want to retire. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that instead of working 5 days a week for some boss who may be a jerk, maybe is nice, but you got to sit there at your desk or be on call, sometimes these days almost 24/7. Instead, you can be the captain of your own ship and you can make it so you're doing very little but still making a great living. Now, how does this work? It works by being a business owner of a special kind of business. The kind of business I'm talking about is one where you organize it so that other people are doing the steps in the business and you're managing it, and hopefully you can do this in a day or two a week. And I'll give you an example from my own life. I have a business called the Overages Business. What I do is I help homeowners who've lost a home to foreclosure get back a big pile of money that they never knew they could get. The important thing in this business is that I have other people doing the steps. So the steps in my business are step one, you got to find people that are owed money. So step one, the researchers get lists of people owed money, the name of the person, their last address, and how much money that they're owed. And then second step in my business is we get the contact information for the people. Third step is we reach out to them and let them know the good news. There's some money we found and that they can get that money, and that we'll do the work for a percentage at no risk to them. And then the next step is we turn in the claim and we get the money. And in my business, I have people doing all those steps. The getting the leads, getting the contact information, reaching out to the people, and putting in the claim and getting the money. I have other people doing all those steps, so that all that I do is I organize the business. I make sure the other people are doing their job. I can do that in a day to a day and a half in the week, and the rest of the week I do what I want. Now, I choose to work, and what I do is I'm busy doing teaching and consulting in that business. But you don't have to. If you truly want to retire, get a business like mine where you can manage it in a short amount of time. Now, there's my business, which is Overages. If you want to know more about that, there's a link down below. I do an intro to Overages. Another thing to think about is doing a franchise. Some franchises really are set up for people who are deploying money into a business where it has systems and processes and support, and it's not meant for the owner to be working in the business. It's meant to be for the owner to be an owner of the business that just has capital deployed into that business. And some of the best work on this was done in something called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And that's a great book if you're considering becoming a business owner and you've been an employee. Take a look at The E-Myth. Really great book. It's an oldie but a goodie. It really talks about being a manager where other people do the time-consuming tasks, but you manage the business. It's brilliant work, and more importantly, it's a brilliant mindset, and it's a shift you need to make to go from an employee looking to retire to a business owner where you're kind of semi-retired anyway. And that's why I said earlier in this video, you can retire at 25, 35, 45, 55, whatever, as long as you're willing to work a day to a day and a half a week, and you choose the right business where you're the manager of the business. Because I think what the financial planners want to teach you about, the 4% rule, I think it's unattainable for most people unless they win the lottery or just get very lucky. I think most people, save up $2 or $3 million is very, very difficult. People just don't make that kind of money for the most part. So I think the smart thing to do is do a hybrid where you're going to be a business owner and you're going to be what I would call is mostly retired, where you can be free to travel, be free to go and go about your business, but where you're not stuck, but where you have other people working for you. And when you do that, all that you need to do is make enough money to live the lifestyle that you want. And so if you picked, $100,000, for example, as your income goal, most businesses are going to make anywhere from 12 to about 28% profit margin on their business. So just for round purposes, if you say you were making a 10% profit margin, you'd need $1 million in top line revenue, I mean $1 million coming through to make $100,000 a year. And that's not that hard to do. You could do that in a plumbing business, you could do it in a painting business, you could do it in the overages business. You could do it in many, many businesses where you can have other people doing the work, which is the key. Let's talk about how the franchise fits into this. Franchises can be really great as long as you look into it very, very carefully. Franchises some are great, some are not great. When I started out my career, I had a franchise. My first business was a franchise. I had it while I was in college. It was called College Pro Painters. It was fantastic. While my friends were off working at the time for probably $6, $7 an hour, I was busy owning a business where when I came back from my house painting business that I only opened during the summer and ran from May through September, when I was done with that, I had enough money to pay for college. I had a brand new car paid for in cash, and I had money for spending money for the entire year. That's when I discovered the joys of entrepreneurship, because my friends came back and just had an enjoyable summer but had nothing to show for it. I actually had a car and spending money the whole year. That's when I got hooked in entrepreneurship, because I realized that it's not that you have to go to an Ivy League school. It's not you have to be the tallest or the best looking or the most amazing. You just have to be a person that thinks a little differently and is willing to do things that other people are not willing to do. So what's an entrepreneur willing to do that other people aren't willing to do? Well, an entrepreneur spends their spare time researching a business and learning about it. So maybe they skip Sports Center or they skip the news and they skip, an extra pickleball game that night or whatever they're doing. And instead they say, let me investigate a new business. And then when they investigate something and find it's interesting, then they talk to some people that know about it and they learn about it and they really flesh out their knowledge. And if it looks good, they take the first steps to try it out themselves. Where I see people fail as entrepreneurs is they refuse to get rid of some of the things that are not that productive in their life, maybe enjoyable, but not that productive. Maybe they're still busy crocheting or being keyboard jihadis on the internet and making comments on blog posts and things like that. Ridiculous. Don't spend your time on that. If you want to get places other people don't get, you need to do things other people aren't willing to do. And most people are not willing to put in the time and effort to try out an entrepreneurial venture. When you see your entrepreneurial venture, look for things where you can start them out without a lot of capital. I think it's a mistake to take all of your savings and just dump it into something. I think it's a big mistake, or empty out your 401k. Instead, what I would do is look for a business that you can get started with without capital, but with putting in effort. Example, when I started the Overages business, I had a little desk in the corner of my office where I was learning and figuring out the overages business, because it wasn't a business anybody knew about or could teach me about. So I figured it out, and just one step at a time. First thing I've researched is, how do I get the leads? How do I find people that are owed money, which is an overages business. I find people that are owed money by the government. I reach out to those people, let them know there's money available. I let them know I'll get the money for a percentage, and for the people that hire me, I go and get the money and I get a percentage. And our typical deal is about a $100,000 deal. We typically work at 40%, so we're making about $40,000. So it's worth a lot of money. And so the steps are, I get lists of people owed money by the government. Second step is I get the person's contact information. Third step is I reach out and I let people know that we found money they're owed, and for a percentage we'll help go get that money. And then for the people that hire us, I go and get the money. Those are the steps. And at the beginning, I did all those steps. But then gradually, I gave them to other people. Like I taught people, here's how you get the leads. Taught someone that. Taught the next person, well, here's how you get the contact information for that person. Taught one person that. Then I taught someone how to do the calling. What do you say to these folks that have no idea they're owed this money, and you're giving them that great news and pitching our services, saying we will do the work for you for a percentage, and then I taught a separate group how to put in the claims. Now the groups work independently. One person gets the list. That's just passed on to the person that does the getting contact information. That's passed on to the sales team. That's passed on to the claiming team. These people don't work together, so they just do their job and get paid for it like any other employee. What I do as a business owner that I would call like semi-retired is I orchestrate. I make sure that leads are coming in. I make sure calls are being made. I make sure contact information is being gotten. I make sure claims are going through and getting paid out. I organize the whole thing. And so I would call me semi-retired. Still making great money. I make more semi-retired than most people make with 2 full-time jobs. But you can do that too. This certainly is not just about me. You can do that too, but the key is to find a business that you can outsource the different tasks to other people. And what comes to mind for me, Overages Business, because I do it, and also franchises as a second thing. The downside to franchises is that they are typically very expensive. Average franchise is about $250,000 plus any real estate that you have to rent or renovate and put into place. So that can get expensive, but franchises can also build up a wonderful income where you're kind of semi-retired. If you want to go back to your original question and figure out what do I need to save, just take what it takes for you to live in a year. So for example, if you need to make $100,000 a year, you take $100,000 that you need to make, divide it by 0.04, and that will get you $2.5 million. That's the gross amount that you need to save. I think that's a lot. I don't think that $100,000 is a lot to make in the overages business or a lot of these other side businesses and franchise. It's not a lot to make in that. So you can do it, but the key is a hybrid system. Forget the financial planners just trying to get your money so they can manage it and charge you a fee. Instead, think of a hybrid where you're working a day and a half a week, making the money that you need to be retired and having a great life for your entire life. So it's been great being here with you today. If you like this content, like it, subscribe for more content like this. I've been an entrepreneur since 1985. I have lots to share with you. I want you to be successful. I want you to grab the opportunities that are out there today, avoid the mistakes that many entrepreneurs make, and be successful quickly. For more about overages, you'll see a link down below. It's a 15-minute video on intro to overages. You can learn about that. And be brave. And one little piece of advice, don't tell your family what you're doing right now, because a lot of times they're just going to poo-poo your idea. Instead, work, in your spare time, work on this until you come up with something great, and then you can talk to them about it. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.